So, friends, the Rishi tradition was born in our Sri Lanka. The sage named Kala lived during the time of King Ravana. It is believed that he lived then. So, have you heard what name Prince Ravana was called in his childhood? That is, Prince Ranaba. This Ranaba prince lived in the Balangoda area of Sri Lanka. Now, the relationship between Prince Ranaba and the great sage Kala is that sage Kala was Prince Ravana's, or Prince Ranaba's, grandfather. You know that King Ravana's father was also a sage. It is mentioned in the distant past that hundreds of sages lived around Sripada. Knowing that his grandson was an unparalleled individual in physical strength and personality, Sage Kala started training his grandson, Prince Ranaba, or Prince Ravana, from a young age. After the death of the great sage Pulasti, it is mentioned that he was born again on our Hela island, that is, the great sage Kala. It is believed that the great sage Kala provided the technology to create the Dandumonara machine for King Ravana. The combination of Ravana and the great sage Kala is considered the most glorious era of the Ravana age. So the great sage Kala had another disciple who practiced the sciences very well. That yogi, Vikum, was born as Vishwakarma Divyaputra. This yogi named Vikum. However, there is another opinion that the Dandumonara machine was made by the yogi named Vikum. A yogi not only has spiritual knowledge, but also good physical knowledge. The great sage Pulasti, along with sages like Dhanvantari, Vyasa, and Charaka, had convened a council on Ayurveda in the Himalayas. The great sage Pulasti presided over this council. The great sage Pulasti, a Sinhalese born in so friends, is the Himalaya really the mountain range in India? Hela land of Sri Lanka, probably got the presidency because of his great wisdom in medicine. So, the fact that our great sage Pulasti gathered for a council on Ayurveda in the Himalayas of India, and the story that about 100 sages lived around the Samanala mountain range makes us think from a different perspective. Now when we go to Polonnaruwa, we can see the statue of King Mahaparakramabahu in front of the Parakrama Samudraya. Is it really King Mahaparakramabahu here? So many say this is sage Pulasti. Friends, there are reasons for that. The people of India call Singhala Great Sage Pulasti of Hela, Sage Pulastiyar. So, after his death, Sage Pulasti is reborn in another life as the great sage Kala. The great sage Kala is then born as the god Upalvan. So, sage Sathya Muni is a Sinhalese national sage born in Sri Lanka. Now, King Ravana is also of our Hela. About 50 stone inscriptions about King Ravana have been found on a secluded mountain in the Anuradhapura area. They have been discovered. Some of them have been destroyed due to the wartime conditions of the past. We said that hundreds of sages lived in Sri Lanka Hela land. Now, sage Agasthi Muni has written the Nadi Vakya. It is also said that 7 sages were involved in writing this Nadi Vakya in connection with sage Kamala Muni. It is also mentioned that the great sage Agastya was involved in the creation of the Omkara in Hinduism. The first yogi was Lord Shiva, so Lord Shiva is known as Maha Yoga. Sage Pulasti had the ability to go anywhere in the world just by thinking about it. King Ravana, who was a great king of the Sinhalese at that time, was a great king who had mastered the science of yoga to the fullest and achieved great spiritual progress through it. Sages like Pulasti and Sathya Muni are still revered in India. Let's talk about this separately. After the end of the Manu dynasty in the Hela land, Sri Lanka, history mentions 3 more dynasties: Taraka, 10,000 years ago, Mahabali, 7,500 years ago, and next, friends, as we said, Ravana, 5,000 years ago. In the lineage of our Hela Yaksha, more than 1,000 inscriptions about King Ravana have been found in areas like Kothmale, Kuragala, Anuradhapura, and Polonnaruwa, which archaeologists have not read and abandoned. In the Vargapurnikava, a book of the Yaksha people, written even before the Mahavamsa, which is still political today, the name of Sri Ravana the Raja is mentioned as Kaurana Manthaka. This means the Yaksha who completed everything. King Ravana was a great scholar, a skilled ruler, and a very skilled Ayurvedic doctor. So we first talked about how these things entered King Ravana's life, how his grandfather shaped him. Not only that, friends, King Ravana was a famous Veena player and a good dancer, an emperor in the upcountry region of our country who practiced meditation, that is, developed his mind through yoga methods. So friends, King Ravana ruled not only Hela land, but also many countries in the world. Even today, friends, rituals are performed in Bali for Ravana. The story of the lion men who came in flying machines in the Babylonian civilization, which is considered an ancient written civilization. A clay tablet discovered in 1998 states that the symbol on Ravana's flag is based on a lion. It is also mentioned that the Hanging Gardens of Babylon were built according to the technology and instructions used to build Sihigira or Sigiriya. So friends, even today in India, they celebrate Diwali to commemorate Rama's victory in the war with Ravana. So when we look at history, King Ravana was defeated due to a betrayal or a conspiracy. Information about Ravana is spread throughout our Hela land. The Horopakana Walas Kenu Geva rock inscription, the Bambaragasta lava inscription in Yala National Park, the Alulena inscription in Kigali, the Rasakanda, Aranayaka, and Kituleva inscriptions, the Ampara, Rajagala, and Rasagala inscriptions, the Walmandila inscription between Topigala and Dambana. A large number of inscriptions like these have not been read and published by archaeology. So it is clear from that information about Ravana and the Ravana lineage has been deliberately suppressed. So, friends, regarding the largest part of Sri Lanka being submerged by the sea, we have made a video. You should watch it. You can also watch that video from this card you see. Of the 8 parts of Sri Lanka, friends, only 1/8 remains now. So, with the sinking of 7 of those 8 parts, the ancient history of Ravana in Sri Lanka is completely submerged. Now, Ravana's cities are being found under the sea in various countries around the world. We have also made a video about that, which you can see in this card. Cave inscriptions mentioning King Ravana's name inside Sri Lanka. There are plenty of places that can be archaeologically explored. Look at the names given to King Ravana under the concept of Dasa Ravana. Raja di Ravana. That name was given because he ruled several countries. Viru Ravana, because of his great heroism. Thira Ravana, Rana Ravana, Siri Ravana, Taru Ravana, Manu Ravana, Dik Ravana, Rajawa Ravana. So, in general, Emperor Ravana was called Dasi's Ravana or the 10-headed Ravana, probably influenced by the concept of Dasa Ravana. So, in the distant past, Hela was composed of the 4 lineages, Yaksha, Naga, Deva, and Raksha. So, the ancient flag of Sri Lanka is considered to be the Ravana flag with the sun and moon. In the card you see above, we have talked about a place where King Ravana's flag of Sri Lanka was hidden.
The Dandu Monara is Ravana's official vehicle. We also talked about the people who helped in the creation of this official vehicle. In Indian history, when King Rama came to Sri Lanka on foot, Ravana had aircraft. So how powerful was Lanka past? According to scientists, the Dandumonara is an aircraft made using a special lightweight material. It is said that the aircraft gets its power for takeoff by heating mercury with the help of mercury, solar power, and diamonds as fuel. Not only that, but Chitrakuta, or the present-day Sigiriya, with its crab machine or elevator, can be identified as the only fortress of its kind in the world. Let's talk a little about the doctor named Ravana. Friends, when we turn the pages of the Mahavamsa, our writing system begins after the Mahavamsa. So friends, how did this list of books, which we say were written in the Ravana Empire, come into being? In which script were they written? There are now inscription evidences about a royal medicinal garden maintained by King Ravana. It is located in the Hantana area. Books written during the Ravana era, the Kumaratantra. Today there are pediatric specialists. A book that has more knowledge than those specialists. This book is the world's first book on pediatrics. This book contains prescriptions for more than 1,000 diseases that affect children. The second one is the Udisha Tantra, hypnotic treatments and mystical treatments. Nadi Prakashaya, treatments based on Nadi Shastra. Arka Prakashaya, Rasa Ratna Karaya, Vatika Prakaranaya. So friends, if we used an alphabet in our country, in our Hela land, after the arrival of Mahinda, which is not mentioned in the pages of the Mahavamsa, how do these books belong to our Hela land? Among the books we mentioned, the work called Arka Prakashaya ends with, "Thus ends 100 cantos composed by Ravana, the Lord of Lanka." So, the story of Ravana, the Lord of Lanka, which is not in the Mahavamsa, is highlighted. Not only that, but it is also mentioned that an Ayurvedic conference was held in the Himalayas under the leadership of Ravana, and that he acted as the head of that medical board. So friends, we talked about this earlier. Think about how long this discussion on medicine went on. However, H.W. Coddington, who lived in Sri Lanka for a very short time, wrote in 1912 the book called A Short History of Ceylon. In this book, there is no mention of a king named Ravana with the evidences we mentioned, nor of the Manu royal dynasty that existed before him in Hela land. So friends, the story of Ravana's history in India comes to the forefront because of Ravana's immense technology, military power, and skill. Somehow, unfortunately, our Hela land has South Indian origins. A monk named Mahanama composes the work called the Mahavamsa. In this work, all the great scientific knowledge systems, like the kings who ruled our Hela land, such as Ravana, King Manu, and King Doli, our Hela technology and aviation science are completely erased. In Coddington's A Short History of Ceylon, Ravana and the Hela kings we mentioned are also erased. So, when Professor Senarath Paranavitana started reading inscriptions in 1920, Coddington's A Short History of Ceylon is introduced into the teaching activities in Sri Lankan schools for children. With the teaching of this history, Coddington's A Short History of Ceylon became very popular in the newspapers and media of that time. So, because of that, the correct history of Sri Lanka is still not accepted by the generations that have come down from that time. Although the facts are like this, the hidden truth in Sri Lanka is still at the research level. During the time of the Buddha, Sri Lanka was ruled by a person named Sumana Saman. Friends, it can be concluded from the Lankavatara and Atanatiya suttas that he used both the epithets Ravana and Vaishravana. Slowly read the words you see on this screen. So, according to the Mahayana Buddhist text, Lanka-Vatara Sutra, it can be clearly found that King Ravana had a strong inclination towards Buddhism. So, pause the video and read this part now. So, is Sri Lanka poor? Are we a developing nation? You should study further about the facts we have mentioned. So then, stay safe and happy.